You will not see this article on the BBC or any kind of impartial media. They shove it at the bottom of
Sorry, are you trying to label BBC as impartial? That is that's even more nonsense than trying to label Daily Mail as reputable.
I know we were going to try and stick to topic and on time, but
here we go.
But
my favourite thing ever. If it happens 10 years' time, I'll be like, yes. I told you, wife. I told you I wasn't selling my Bitcoin.
Quantum computing basically means it can do infinite things all at once, extremely quickly. Literally almost like a nuclear explosion. It just goes bang, everything's done instantly. So what that does and why that is a potential problem for Bitcoin.
Sex life.
Yeah, it's a sex life when you're 18, yeah. Boom, everything's done in a second. And God, I've lost my train of thought now. I'm picking up quantum computing. Now I'm thinking about picking that.
One of my favourite accounts is Safety Hammers, mainly because I love him. But the second is the insults which he puts out.
Oh,
So I think it was, I think it's someone about XRP or something trying to shill him. And he said something on the lines, the biggest mistake for you was learning to read, is you wasted that gift.
In fairness, I'm sure he'll be listening, so fuck you, Mark.
We're on a limited time today, aren't we? Because
yeah.
Ross, you had a late night, did you? Partying the night away yet again? Freaking rock and roll life you lead over there?
Oh, my daughter waking me up 3 different times, shouting because she'd taken her Teddy's clothes off and couldn't get the Teddy's clothes back on. The life of a G.
That sounds a legitimate excuse to wake up 3 times. I'm completely on her side. We've done it 4 times.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen tonight.
Yeah. So
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, should we talk about fake news then, shall we? They're the first kind of like 2 topics of the day.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know where to start with that one.
I know, like the first one, I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's all about the vaccine and lockdown. It just gets me way too triggered and end up being a 7-hour podcast again. But it's essentially the news has come out now. Like the people got cancelled on social media for saying and linking the virus to being man-made and coming out of the Wuhan lab. Which, when you look at like all the data that's coming out now, like we already knew that this lab was working on COVID vaccines. It was experimenting on viruses within bats, and then miraculously within Wuhan, a virus that looks like it's coming from a bat, starts a global pandemic. But if you said on social media or anywhere pretty much online, you would get lambasted for being a conspiracy theorist. That how dare you accuse this being man-made? This is obviously just. It's a mistake. It came from the wet markets or something. Someone ate a bat, or a bat bit a pig, and then someone ate the pig, and that's where the virus has come from. And it's
have you not seen the South Park explanation?
No, what was that one?
Randy goes on business to China, and he meets up with Mickey Mouse, and they have sex with a bat, and then they gangbang a pangolin.
Oh, actually, I have seen that. Yeah. But was that actually related to COVID as well? Was that a recent one?
Yeah, that is.
I go one step further than you, Gaz, as well, in terms of it's not just you would have been branded a conspiracy theorist, you would have also been branded as racist as well by saying, oh, okay, China. But I think the facts were there. And again, this probably goes down to human fallacy of like, we just didn't want to believe it. But it was the truth of the matter. All the evidence was there. But one of the things I think was because Donald Trump was saying it. And if he'd have said it in a better way, then I think it would have been okay. But my friend, he was absolutely saying we should be laying the blame firmly at China's door. But we're afraid because we rely so heavily on China.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, this is a point of conspiracy theorists behind it, but Fauci has visited this lab. America has funded this lab.
Yeah. Fauci's funded it.
Yeah. Yeah, one of his organizations has taken funding in and then given funding to this Wuhan lab. And that he was getting questioned about it in Congress, going, are they experimenting on a virus that could be like this? And he went, well, they are experimenting on COVID vaccines and or COVID viruses, yes, trying to start the virus and then create vaccines as well. And so they were asking, like, could this have happened just by accident? And I think the fact is, whilst it could have been a bit of racist, but I think there's also, America would have to admit some culpability as well, because it's a lab funded by them. So just because it's in China, that's kind of like by the by. It's like, who paid for it and who wants this work doing? And America was part of that. And then it's leaked out, well, either on purpose. If it's on purpose, obviously, then you can suddenly go, right, this is almost like a terrorism act, right?
If it was on purpose, it'd be a different area, I feel.
Yeah, and it would be it's a bizarre virus to let go because it's not even that bad. So it just seems like it was an accident.
But what about grandma?
I will go so far as to say I think it could have been an accident, a genuine accident, but obviously an accident gone very wrong.
I think a couple of things to pick up on this. So you mentioned the racist element, but we've had no problem calling it the British variant. We've had no problem calling it the Indian variant. Yep. So I don't really understand what that line is. Maybe it's Chinese-controlled media, which is putting him out there because, I think we're slightly aware of the existence of things like bots on social media. So they could be putting the message across in that way. Because no one's kicked off about the British variant or what was it, the Kent variant or whatever else we've got.
Yeah. And Brazilian in there as well.
Yeah,
and South African.
And so no one's kicked off for racism. Then the other take which I've had on this is we talked about fake news. So it's fake news which became a truth. Mm. What about if it was the truth, which is now fake news? So what about that spin? Then you go, well, why would they do that? Well, China is becoming dominant while the US has been sleeping for the last year, and they want to take China out. Mm. So what do you actually believe? This is kind of like one of the things. What is the actual truth? We don't know what to believe now. We've had a year of complete lying, beyond anything which I've seen in my lifetime.
I think also the line from China as well to try to clear things up. There's so much in there.
Yeah. So I don't know what to believe. And that kind of makes me think, like the flip-flopping on this with Fauci in particular has made me think, well, is Gaz actually right about the whole reset narrative? Whereas I've just said it's, it's down to, I'm trying to think what the correct word term is. Had a bit of a mind blank. But it's basically down to them being a bunch of fucking idiots who've overreacted and won't admit their mistake. I've always kind of thought that they've just kept on going, even though it's obvious it's not an issue. Average age, pre-existing conditions, it's all pointed towards it is, a super virus as such, but it is not the Black Plague, which happened and wiped out half the Earth's population.
Yeah, I must admit, I do think it's all kind of genius because I think there is an underlying agenda here, but by putting clowns in the front of government and then up on stage, they just spout so much total nonsense that you're trying to find the truth in amongst the lies. And quite often the people that are up on stage don't know the underlying truth. They're just, whatever talking points they've been given, they just spout them out, which is why it's masks one day, no mask the next, double masks now, take the vaccine, don't take it's just lockdown, no lockdown. So it becomes such a clown show that when you're actually trying to make sense of it, there's so many strains. It's like, was it racist against China? Was it they just hate everything Trump said? Was it legit? Did they overreact? Is it on purpose? There's so many different kind of agendas all going on, all different governments trying to pull different things. It's such a clown show that when you're actually trying to evaluate it and go, what the hell was going on here? It's just a web of nonsense. And to try and unpick it, it's nearly impossible. And you'll just go insane. So you end up just going, you know what? I'll just leave it. And I think that's what most people are doing. Like, I don't know. I think they said it was bad. It was bad. All people remember was China. China bad, virus bad. Can I go outside and have a beer yet? And that's largely where people get to. And so even though when the truth slowly starts to like leak out like this, it just doesn't really have an impact. This hasn't made anyone. No one's being held accountable here. So every tweet that had that horrible big banner on it saying, this is verifiably untrue. Please fact check this. And it had links to articles. You'd get shadow banned. People got cancelled off social media completely because of it. None of that gets undone. That's all just still apparently stays true. But now even Fauci can come out and go, oh yeah, it does actually look man-made. Sorry about that. And there's no consequences, no accountability.
Well, I think on that point as well, and no consequences and no accountability, what's the accountability and consequences for China moving forward? There are none.
Yeah. Well,
it's too late, isn't it?
But it's the two superpowers, America, China, so you're kind of stuck. And it just, it does say to you, like, it has really outraged me, but like Gaz said, it really doesn't seem to, gone on anyone's radar. It's either sheer incompetence or it's a mastermind has put this together to make it look like it's blinding incompetence. But it does...
the only actually proper media has actually put the article out. There's a 22-page study on why this is almost definitely man-made. It does not, because the thing is, the way you can tell is that all flu viruses link back to the previous ones, so they're basically like a family. This one is just, it's like a right angle and then up, which clearly says that like someone went in, messed with the DNA, and it's gone sideways and then up, which is half the reason why everyone got so panicked by it. They went, holy shit, this is something we've never seen before. But it's links back quite clearly as, oh yeah, the science now says this is almost definitely man-made. Someone made it. It didn't naturally come from a bat and just mutate inside the bat. This was made in the lab. But it's the only publication that has it is the Daily Mail. And that's someone that I actually see as a nonsense racist paper that I would never normally read. So most people don't read it. You will not see this article on the BBC or any kind of impartial media. They shove it at the bottom of their...
Sorry, are you trying to label BBC as impartial? That is like, that's even more nonsense than trying to label Daily Mail as reputable. Like BBC, absolute nonsense. And they're horrendous. Possibly the most horrendous news coverage.
They're at the shallow end of the pool, aren't they? They literally just never cover anything of any substance.
Yeah, if it's left wing, brilliant. If it's a left wing doing something bad, we're not going to cover it. And if it's slightly against the government in this whole last year, we're not going to cover it, such as the protests.
I know we were going to try and stick to topic and on time, but
here we go.
But what? To your point, two things actually. I don't see, and it'll probably play out in time. But I don't see the bigger picture of why all of this has happened as such. But two, why do we have independent media outlets out there that didn't decide at the time to be independent and kind of dig into it a little bit deeper and say, well, hold on here. We're going to take the stance that we don't actually believe that it was, not man-made, and then therefore kind of run with the story a little bit more.
I don't think...
Right, mixture, cancel culture. You think about the whole thing. Like, we've got this massive cancel culture. Oh, you're threatening grandma's life. So you kind of got that factor. Then you've also got, if I remember reading correctly, the government was paying newspapers or media as a way of adverts to publish certain stories.
Right.
And the other one, which has been circulating, I don't know how true it is, the government put a ban on reporting certain types of reporting within the first 3 months.
Yeah, they made it illegal, so that the government's basically issued like these 10 bullet point type things, and you had to stay to that narrative. And if you didn't, then the way they've got funneled the money in is they advertised. And obviously, because in a global pandemic as lockdown, loads of businesses cut loads of their advertising spend, because what's the point advertising stuff if no one's got any money and everyone's locked at home? So the government filled that void. But then obviously as a part of that exchange, they go, well, you need to follow the narrative. If you start breaking out and going, maybe we've got our own opinion on this, the funding that is keeping all your journalists paid is going to get cut. So it sticks to the narrative, and also I don't think people didn't want to hear it. Like if you went off the government narrative, you were instantly labeled a granny killer, conspiracy theorist, and even like and just deviating from maybe this virus isn't from a bat, it's man-made. That still doesn't really mean you're downplaying it. it doesn't mean you're against vaccines or masks or lockdown. It just literally, you're just questioning the narrative to go, maybe this is man-made, and it just, is that a possibility?
Yeah.
You would be still labeled a conspiracy theorist and a granny killer just for questioning that. So
just wait till it all trickles out. Like lockdowns don't save lives, because it's proven. You know, you got the American states, they've proven it. Texas, Florida versus California, done. You know, it's proven at mass and not effective. It was said a year ago how it actually raised the amount of deaths in the Spanish flu by causing, what was it, bacterial, what's a chest infection called?
pneumonia.
Yeah, pneumonia. You can tell my memory's not there because I'm overtired. Yeah, so you know the mask because people aren't washing, but somehow we think that it's actually the right thing to wear a mask. Whereas to stop a virus, you have to wear a full-on mask with full-on filters on it, and not just a rag which you can use for a bandana. So I think that's all going to come out. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, let's pivot the fake news into Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, the whole Bitcoin space has a massive problem with this. Obviously, like the last couple of pods we've had, the majority of it has been fake news. Whether it's China again, weirdly, they're always picking in there. China and India, actually. India banned Bitcoin as well, and then unbanned it. Yeah. And then we've got Elon with the energy. And it was a great, I think, blog article from Coinbase, who do get a lot of shit in the space. But they're actually just putting a whole load of people, they're going to dedicate their blog to just reading and seeing what social media is saying, what the media is saying about Bitcoin and about them. They are doing it about Coinbase as well, because they get a lot of mud slung at them. And they're just going to do impartial, fact-based, this is the information. And we're going to spend some proper time, like proper journalism. And they're not going to be doing, PR for Coinbase. They're just going to be putting out the information. So if anyone wants to combat the FUD, you can just link it to their article. And it just looks like a great initiative. This isn't just a normal blog. It's not. It seems to be that they're trying to start a movement. And I think if more people start doing what Coinbase are doing here, just putting out fact-based articles, it looks like a great initiative.
But I feel like it's a little bit flawed after last year calling it a fact check. I just look at it and think, do you believe it? You know, the last year is just completely taken away anything in the media's credibility. And that's not Coinbase's fault. That's a government and media. You know, it's been a horrendous shit show. So I don't know how they actually spin that from, oh yeah, here's an article, compared to what's been published over last year. Here's an article, and we know it's not true, but we're telling you it's true. So how do they spin that around? Because we can read it. You can keep on saying it to someone, say, read this, and it makes sense because A, B, C, and you can kind of show it adding up. But they're going to be like, it's fake news because Fox News or whoever says it's fake.
I think going back to our our topic, was it number 6 or number 5 where we said to verify ourselves as well?
What, don't trust, verify?
Yeah, don't trust, verify.
And how many people do that?
I know. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? It's too hard when people have to actually engage the brain. But I personally, obviously practice what we preach, would go ahead and do that. I'd read it. I'd say, okay, great. Where else can I kind of corroborate the story somewhere else? We've all spoken about the hassles that we had when we first got into Bitcoin, because there wasn't that much information that was out there. We live in an information-rich society, but on a topic that we all found really interesting, we couldn't find anything or much. So I think this is good, and it's a great initiative to start it. I mean, the 12 years that Bitcoin's been around, it's always had this fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I think it's time to kind of fight back and obviously put the truth out there or such, and for people to check it.
Yeah. See, this is what I think Elon's gone for with the whole drama which he played out over a couple of weeks. I think it's actually angle which he's going for. Like I said, just think about it as 4D chess. You'll only be able to tell in time, but that's my bet that somehow that's going to raise the profile. But this is it's a good source, and I'll be, reading it. I'm guessing you probably have to follow on Twitter to then pick up the blog posts. So I'll follow them just to pick them up because it'll teach me as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot which I don't know about crypto, which we'll probably cover in future podcasts.
Yeah, because I think that the problem is the people that write about Bitcoin are journalists by and large, and they're not experts in Bitcoin. Like the experts in Bitcoin are hidden in the Bitcoin space, doing the podcast, writing the books. So if you get into the rabbit hole that far, you get hold of those golden nuggets of those truth. But the mainstream just, because that's the thing, I can't remember there's actually a word for it, but basically when you're reading
Sponsored.
articles, no.
Sponsored by the Bank of England, sponsored by JP Morgan.
Yeah, of course there's that. But there's a weird thing that we have as humans when we're reading articles. So you'll be reading, say, a publication, and you'll read about some sport, about some politics, about some investing, and you'll be take that in as, oh, this all looks legit. And then you come to a Bitcoin one and you'll just realize it's full of holes, it's complete garbage, and you'll just almost laugh. Then you turn the page, read another one about politics and go, oh, that was interesting, learned a lot. And why do you believe the first articles and the last one? Because you're not an expert in those, so they can influence you quite easily, even though the one you were an expert in, you clearly picked a load of holes in it. So it's this very weird thing we have as humans where we will trust a source if we don't understand the topic, even though we have seen them being crazily wrong. And Bitcoiners see this all the time. And I think it's a great initiative, because I think if we can actually get crypto/Bitcoin companies to actually pay people to put out good content, that's what we need. We don't need journalists writing about Bitcoin. They don't get it, and they'll just follow the FUD. And it's the thing is, though, the problem, it gets clicks. If you say Bitcoin's boiling the oceans, everyone's clicking that. Yeah. If you try and write a really in-depth analysis of the energy use in Bitcoin, no one gives a shit about that. That's hard. It's reading. I just want to hear if anything, people don't even read past the headline half the time. So we are on an uphill struggle here, but I think it's good. And if more people do it, the better. Because the more articles we've got that are fact-based, written by experts that understand the topic, then, and yeah, if it does come from Elon, if Elon has started this fire, then fair play. It's going to be good for the space.
Yeah. Well, we're saying 3 different approaches as well, which I thought was quite interesting. You've got turn the other cheek, basically ignore them because they're a fucking idiot. But then, if that rumor actually spreads, fight. But if you're dealing with a fucking idiot, it can go on forever, as we've seen with particular individuals on Twitter. And then, yeah, you. I'm the first one, just publish the truth. Ignore what they're saying, ignore their responses. This is what it is, and this is why. May just take them a high road and publish the truth. Don't get into the arguments. Don't get into the dirty games. Just publish it.
Yeah, no, I like it. Right, and then on the last pod, we were talking about where Bitcoin is in the global currency, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
Here we go for a pre-prepared screen.
Boom. So in the last one, I think we had Bitcoin at 3, and I was very surprised when you said that. I'm like, wow, last time I checked, Bitcoin was 20 something. So I was amazed when I saw 3. And I think the reason that article, it is a legit article, but for whatever reason, it was only counting the circulating supply of currency. So like the physical notes and coins that are out there. But of course, there's shit tons of money in the central banks and in government. So you've got to include all that. So when you do include that, yeah, Bitcoin is currently 16th. And weirdly, China have got quite a lead over the United States and the euro and the Japanese yen there.
See, I was trying to understand that because maybe it's my understanding about economics, but the site, it's always said that the US has the biggest economy, isn't it? So the amount of wealth so it's the equivalent of what's that? Almost 1 billion Bitcoin, and then the United States is
half that,
bordering on half. So yeah, maybe I'm just misunderstanding that. But
no, I think in reality, guess who told you that the United States is the powerhouse of the globe and no one can compete? It links back to our previous article. Like literally, we just discussed it. It's the media and who pays, because China is completely, they get 0 advertising dollars into the Western space. They are the enemy, and they all get downplayed as basically terrorists and bad people. It's the United States, the euro, and the pound, which are 2, 3, and 4, 5 on there. They're the ones that are paying the majority of the media to write their articles. So guess who we get told who are the powerhouses?
Yeah, of course.
And with
Yeah, that's very, very true.
Don't trust verify. Here's the verification. They're lying to you. China are double. You can pretty much add up United States and the whole of Europe, and that's China.
It doesn't surprise me, as we talked about last week. The Americans, they've become fat and lazy, whereas China, they still believe they're in the struggle. They're still going for it. They still want to be, easily number one. Not going to be content with doubling. It's going to be tripling, but it'll be quadrupling. And I just think that's a mentality. They're building like a, proper steel mentality to this approach, rather than becoming spoilt victims.
Yeah. Another thing I like about this screenshot is just down this right-hand side, max supply, unlimited, 21 million. Here we are.
Is there a currency in the world which is not unlimited? So it's not to my knowledge.
No, they're all fiat. They're all government owned. They all just get done by the money printer.
So I know that the Swiss roughly follows gold. I can't remember what the exact term is for it. So the Swiss is actually one which isn't so bad with inflation, but they came off the gold standard a lot later than everyone else.
Yeah.
I don't know the term.
To a certain extent, like governments are only as responsible as they're allowed to be. So the higher up this list you are, the more you can print because your currency is worth more. And the United States are the ones number one. That is the global currency of the world. That's the petrodollar. So
yeah.
No, it's the US dollar, mainly because the only reason the US dollar is so powerful is because the entire world after World War II got told that you have to accept only dollars for your goods, mainly the oil. So they went and invaded the whole of the Middle East and went, we're going to price all your oil.
That's a freedom.
We did it in the 40s though, so all the wars they've done since, I think that was them kicking off going, can we stop freaking having to buy stuff with dollars and sell you with dollars, because you're not doing anything to get your dollars. You just print it and give us your dollars, and we have to give you natural resources that cost us legitimate money to get out the ground and freaking ship to you, and whenever we want something off you, we have to pay you dollars, and we can't you accept our currency that we can just print out of thin air. And America like, no, we only want to accept dollars. So that's why the dollars is number one.
There's also a law, and they put people in, countries under sanctions if you don't follow the printing schedule of America, which is probably the most corrupt fucking thing which I've ever seen. I was like, if you don't print a minimum of what we have per year, we will put you on a sanctions list. And then there's a country which is fairly close. I was just like, how does that work?
I know it's literally the mafia. If you go back, watch a gangster film, they knock on your door and go, how much for the protection money? And like, well, I don't need protection. It's like, well, you do now. If you don't pay us £1,000 a month, then
this highlights, the real need. It kind of highlights the Bitcoin cause. Like, a lot of people don't understand why Bitcoin's popular. I didn't. Darnell didn't. Gaz did, and he kept on telling us, but it just went whoop. This is a key point, is literally they are inflating the cash supply, devaluing your assets, cash in the bank. Your house may be increasing in value, but your wage probably isn't. And that's the problem with fiat. And I think that's, if people could actually understand that and see it, I think that's when you would see Bitcoin being adopted by people as a store of value.
Absolutely. It goes back to the point of the countries mining Bitcoin, the likes of Iran and North Korea and Pakistan as well, so that they can't be controlled by the sanctions that would unfortunately be imposed on them.
It'd be amazing if we saw the rise of the next powerhouse somewhere like Pakistan off the back of mining and buying Bitcoin. That would just be my favorite thing ever. If it happens in 10 years' time, I'd be like, yes, I told you, wife. I told you I wasn't selling my Bitcoin.
I know it will be beautiful. It's just that the problem is, like, obviously the way that would get pitched to us through the media, that it would get twisted. And just as China, now China have done everything legitimate. They might not be the nicest people to their people. They undoubtedly are a dictatorship, and there's some very dodgy stuff that's gone on there. But by and large, their business practices are completely legitimate, and they have grown to their position just through good old capitalism. and they are demonized. So if a country like Pakistan or whatever like pop up somewhere, because they are the first ones to adopt the Bitcoin standard, I can guarantee that gets twisted. Can guarantee it will not be a hero story. They will be the villains. We will find a reason to villainize them.
It's like Russia was a villain because they rose up, joined numerous countries together, and had the big USSR, didn't they? They were villains, and all it was the kind of Cold War against the US, but it wasn't a war as we typically know it, and they have vilified for it. And then it fell apart, and then China rises up. I just think China are too smooth, too well run for that to happen to them. It'll be the US who it happens to.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, over the next 10 years, because I think what the big powers have realized is they did have a huge reliance on China. So they're using the pandemic thing as a reason to kind of bring manufacturing back in-house. So they've got it within their country borders. And it's going to be super interesting to watch that play out, because you can't just do that without having an impact on prices of goods. We have got so used to everything being so cheap. And I think and this is, again, I think I mentioned this before, like that's why we've been hidden from a lot of the inflation that has really happened. Our goods have not gone up as much as they should have, but it's because we are using slave labor in China. And when this fact comes out, I genuinely think it's going to be like when slavery of black people was suddenly outlawed. Like, it was crazy, and it really disrupted the whole society, because suddenly, I don't have free labor, my business doesn't make money now. It's like, well, guess what? Your business sucks, because you should be paying those people properly. So when they had to do it, it was a huge transition. The price of goods went flying through the roof, and suddenly everyone looked back and went, we can't believe we did that. And we're still obviously suffering with the consequences now. We are doing exactly the same thing to Chinese people right now. Everybody knows it. Nobody seems to care, because the slaves that we have now don't live in our homes and aren't in the fields outside. They're all the way across the ocean in China. So because they're so far, you what?
And they make your iPhone.
They make everything.
And I see Darnell's what are they called? Pods. AirPods.
Yeah.
They make everything. They make everything.
Probably the laptop which I'm on, my headphones, microphone, my phone, and actually that's South Korean. But
and it's really sad, but we by buying these goods, right, we are enabling it's the same living 200 years ago and having slaves to run our businesses. Like, we would feel ashamed by that now and going, I can't believe we did that. We should have obviously been paying people and not keeping slaves. We are doing right now by buying. The problem is there's zero choice. Like, if you try and avoid China-made goods, good luck. Like, everything freaking bypasses China in some shape or form. Like, Apple are very clever. They say like designed in California, and then in tiny letters below it, made in China. So it's and it's
I genuinely think back, but I think the hard thing is that we don't want to pay the costs. To your point, Kaz, if we try to do it, we just know, why are we paying not even double? It's like triple, quadruple, if not more.
It's probably 10x.
Yeah.
But they get paid like pennies, like £1 a day. It's ridiculous. Like, that's not.
But this is, the whole thing. When we don't have a steady currency, a steady understanding of actual costs, it's impossible to actually tell what the true cost should be of these goods. Like you're saying, it should be 10 times. It's debatable. We just don't know, unless we actually had
greed of man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I genuinely think if we could fast forward 200 years, they'll be looking back on the last couple of generations, and probably the generations going forward, at the China slave system, and we'll have the whole cancel culture with, like, Black Lives Matter. We'll have China Lives Matter. Like, in 200 years, they'll be looking back on this going, and China will be asking for reparations, going, you freaking enslaved us for generations. Like, we want to freaking, all those goods you got for free, like, we want freaking paying. Like, you lived the life of luxury. We were in factories getting paid £1 a day. How about we freaking get some money now? And I genuinely think we're living through it and we can't see it. And look what we're doing. Just as they did back then, you dehumanize the people you enslave. You make them into animals. And that's what we're doing with China. It's like, again, it feeds into the virus thing. It's just a nice coincidence that the virus started there. There was also a dictatorship. Just another reason to demonize them and make them almost appear like less than human to us. So it justifies, oh, who cares if they're being enslaved? You know, they're nasty people anyway. And in reality, the majority of people in China are perfectly good people. The top 100 that run their government, total scumbags. But the other billion, they're perfectly nice people, and we're benefiting from their slavery. And it's definitely a dilemma.
It's getting deep again, guys.
I know. I didn't even think we were going to go there. But we got our Bitcoin learning section, if you want to go into that, with quantum computing.
God. Donald, do you have a read up about this?
I thought I'd leave Darnell to lead this one as our quantum computing expert.
My understanding is that I'm going to pass it over to you guys.
I thought you were actually going to have a go then. I was like, go on, lad. Go on. We can do it.
I've got like 2 threads which I've read about. So there's undermining Bitcoin, so hacking it. And then there's also mining it. So it seems like quantum computing can be used for both. So from what I was reading, they're saying that we reckon it'll be hackable within 5 to 30 years. And that's based upon, so I'm just finding my notes, the figures. So currently, I don't know how you say this, but it's QU bits as quantum computing power. And we need 4,000 QU bits in order to break the Bitcoin network. So 5 to 30 years, it could be, you know, buggered from what I could read. It's hard to find anything kind of beyond that surface. But apparently they still need your public keys to hack it. And then there's some mining bit as well. So, I mean, it's one which I haven't read into at all before. So I don't really know what to make of it. So is it going to be better for mining? So it's, I don't know, is it less energy intensive? Or is it just going to cause problem on hacking completely?
Yeah. Wasn't there a section on this in the Bitcoin standard as well?
Yeah, I think he does talk about quantum computing a little bit. Yep.
Yeah.
It's in there. The classic FUD. There's like 6 different FUD topics, and quantum computing is one of them.
Yeah. And to my understanding, like you said, if computers are running currently at 50 and they need to get to 4,000 to be able to do so, then as we know, technology evolves at a rapid pace. It's years away, but equally, we should be thinking that at the same time span that quantum computing will evolve, so will Bitcoin. And so hopefully the two will never meet and they'll just shift along equally. So for everything that they try to improve, the network will equally improve itself. That's my take on it.
Yeah. They have said that there's been a proposal about how to encrypt it maybe, using a new standard back in 2017. It's put forward when it's first looked at. That's literally it from me. So guys, you're going to have to explain it for dummies now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, quantum computing, essentially, it's one of those topics. It's a little bit like time travel, where there's early theories that go, it's possible. But when you really dig into it and you get into the real core laws of physics, it seems not to be possible. So it's one of these things that some scientists believe in it, but the majority think it's a pipe dream and this is never going to really be possible. And the core concept of what quantum computing is that computers can only do one thing at once. They literally just go from point A to point B and they just solve a problem. And the only way to make computers faster is to have multiple cores. And then you basically do lots of things in one go. And that's why you can run multiple programs on your computer at one time. They're only just doing one thing. They just do one thing very, very fast. And so the reason why that's typically how computers are, no one has figured out a way of making a computer work any faster than that, just by putting more cores in them. Quantum computing basically means it can do infinite things all at once, extremely quickly. Literally almost like a nuclear explosion. It just goes bang, everything's done instantly. So what that does and why that is a potential problem for Bitcoin.
What's your sex life?
Yeah, it's your sex life when you're 18, yeah. Boom, everything's done in a second. And God, I've lost my train of thought now. I'm thinking of quantum computing. Now I'm thinking about freaking that.
See, Darnell and I were on different trains of thought. I was thinking about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the meaning of life. Darnell's talking about sex life at 18.
Yeah, so essentially
we needed a soundbite.
That's the soundbite right there. So why that's important to computers and pretty much the entire internet is that the entire internet is secured with encryption. And the only reason why encryption is unhackable is because it's like to decode your emails or to solve a Bitcoin block or to hack Bitcoin, you have to solve a very complex encryption that at the moment would take thousands of years to even solve using every supercomputer in the world. The theory with quantum computing is that suddenly it goes from thousands of years to 2 seconds. I can break any encryption, so I can just walk in through any firewall. I can read everyone's emails. I can go in and change a Bitcoin transaction. I can mine any Bitcoin I want instantly, the second anyone has a quantum computer. So whilst it is definitely like a legitimate like threat to Bitcoin, like if you've invented quantum computing, is that the first thing you're going to go for? Because the second you use your quantum computing power on Bitcoin and change something, the value of Bitcoin goes to zero anyway. So whatever you've stolen is worthless. Or do you want to go
and to the Fed get it?
Yeah, oh, exactly. Or do you want to go hack the bank? Do you want to hack? You can hack. There's a million things to hack. Essentially, encryption and security of our entire online kind of presence and everything we do online is open. Everything, the doors are just wide open. They can just walk into anything, in and out. So the whole FUD kind of gets knocked down by, number one, it's probably impossible. So they've been trying to do quantum computing for the last couple of decades. Yeah, those whole qubit things. You need to get to 4,000 qubits to even start making impact. I think maybe it's about 50, and that is already like, it's just nowhere near. Like they're so far away.
80 times, and if it's taken them decades. So you think about the advances in technology. Some, once you get to a certain point, they accelerate. Some, once you get to a certain point, they struggle to progress. It takes decades and decades to get, like, say, even another 10 qubits. So
You're right, but the problem is, it's like the scientists go, it's not possible now. You've gone as far, like you've basically just proven some theory, but they haven't really got anything working. So it's very much, they do liken it to time travel, where you think it's possible, you think you can like split time and space and like dip in and out and wherever you want to come out, but then you get so far through the theory, you get kind of through page 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you go, oh, we've just proven the theory. This actually isn't possible now. This isn't how time and space works. That's what a lot of people, and like there's some great Bitcoiners that I've heard talk on this subject, that's their view on quantum computing. You've gone through the theory, you've gone through the first couple of steps, and essentially you've disproven it. You've gone, nope, that is not a legitimate theory. So it isn't following Moore's law, as in we don't have a version 1. If you have a version 1, then you can start to go up that curve. We don't have a version 1. They had a version 0.1 and then have not got past that. So it's likely not a threat to Bitcoin.
But if it's got Ethereum as a theory of how to make the Bitcoin network quantum computing unhackable, then it goes hand in hand that there could be major improvements to Bitcoin if it gets to say 1,000 qubits.
Yeah,
that improvement gets put in.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the Bitcoin space as well. Yeah, we have like the best encryption developers in the world working on Bitcoin. So if anything comes along that is a threat to encryption, our guys are going to be right at the front of that queue. And before anything else is secured, I can guarantee Bitcoin will be secured before your bank account. So it's still like, even if some type of encryption smasher comes up, your Bitcoin is probably safer than your pounds and dollars.
Equally, could Bitcoiners not use the quantum computing for their own good as well, and again making the encryption even tighter?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what would happen. Yeah, they'd be at the forefront of it. So the second, if that, like the ability to break it existed, they would build the next layer of encryption that is quantum secure into Bitcoin. And it's most likely the first quantum secure network in the world will be Bitcoin. And your bank is going to be 486th. They're probably gonna have to just shut down the bank for a period of years whilst they figure it out and go, we can't open everyone's bank account. We have to shut down the apps because hackers are just walking in, taking your money and walking out again. This is it'll be complete chaos for the world if encryption gets broken on a mass scale.
Yeah.
That's
our Bitcoin learning lesson on the
side. Interesting topic. Learned something again this week.
Yeah. So really, it's actually probably quite a joint, isn't it? And you see the marathon mining stories that were coming out this week.
Well, didn't we touch upon that last week about regulation? So, like, I had a read about it, and it's a company called Marathon Digital Holdings. So they're the ones who are pushing this, as in, let's make it a regulated space. And Gaz's face last week was just like, no chance. This is not your world. This is ours. It's a world of the plebs.
Get out of my pub.
Yeah, so we want to be compliant with US regs. So I'm guessing that's like the Patriot Act and OFAC and various other things. But when they did it, they put these stamps so they could only pull out blocks which had been through their process. But they ended up with dark web transactions and ended up in there as well. So it's too easy to undermine. I think this was even without a lot of effort. It ended up with bad ones. So I think you put in something around taproot to kind of help stop this. So I'm guessing you meant CoinJar and taproot. So you're just going, well, the Bitcoin's clean now.
Well, yeah, what they were doing is, they were centering transactions in blocks. So they were saying we're only going to pass regulated transactions. And they were also not signaling to enable taproot. So they were, because the thing is, like, for taproot to be activated, we need the miners to signal that they are going to mine taproot blocks. And Marathon weren't signaling for that. They were one of the few big miners that were actively not signaling for it. So, and then they also went to the mining council with Elon the other day. So they kind of had hit 3 things bad in the course of 2 weeks. I'd never even heard of Marathon before this. And in 3 weeks, they got flagged for, they're going to say, we're going to do regulated blocks. We're going to not signal to upgrade to Taproot. And by the way, we're talking about to Elon about energy usage. It's like, you're wasting your time. You're an enemy to Bitcoin. What the fuck's going on? So they've got a new CEO. It's only come in the last 30 days, he said, and a lot of their stuff was already in action. He hasn't had anything to do with it. He put a video up on Twitter and basically saying, we apologize for all this. The regulated blocks are going away. Because the thing is, like, Bitcoiners, we were out for them. We're like, we're going to put an update into Bitcoin that fucks off Marathon. Like, we're going to identify them and fucking cut them out of the network. Like, fuck those guys. Like, they're an enemy. Like, we don't like them. The good thing is, like, once you turn on Bitcoin, it's like, people don't want to work for you now. Like, you're a Bitcoin company and you're the most hated company in Bitcoin in the last 3 weeks. And undoubtedly, like, people are probably saying, like, we want to leave. Like, so they've had to act. And this is why, again, like, the plebs on Bitcoin, we do have power. We're the immune system for Bitcoin. Like, we will freaking hunt it out. And if there's a bad actor that is signaling for bad things for Bitcoin, we'll call you out. And eventually, it's caused change. Like, their CEO has come online and gone, sorry for the regulated blocks. We completely reversed all that. We are now signaling for Taproot. And the mining council thing, we're just going to go, but we don't believe Bitcoin has an energy problem. Like, great that you've just gone from enemy to friend. Well done. You've addressed your mistakes. They were mistakes. You just had bad leadership. The founders of Marathon are long gone, which I think they're the proper Bitcoiners. This is always the problem with companies when they get passed over to new ownership. The original founders know the ethos and the vision of the company. Then just business people come in and just think, oh, I'm just going to run it like a business. And they've gone, no, this isn't just a normal business. This is a Bitcoin business. You need to run it with the vision of Bitcoin. Otherwise, you're going to fail. And this fair play to this new CEO. He's realized that. He's addressed it. He's told Bitcoin Twitter what his views are. And it's great. Now they're a friend of Bitcoin. Well done.
Do you think there's an issue here with the people that have gotten into Bitcoin and got burnt, and then the true Bitcoiners, and they're kind of two opposing one another? So the true Bitcoiners know that there's volatility in the marketplace. So yeah, guess what? Things in terms of like the price, it will go down at times. But then obviously the on the other hand, we're like, yeah, see you in 2024, or if not, have fun staying poor. And then that also like kind of like the relationship between the two playing out on a social media stage. So one wants to hear the FUD, and then the other wants to actually tell the truth, and that clash.
Yeah. Well, I think it's beautiful because the thing is with Bitcoin and Twitter, like we disagree. Like we fight the amount of arguments within Bitcoin and Twitter, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And even on this marathon subject, like not everyone agreed that what they were doing was wrong. Like there's a small percentage that went, oh no, they're just running their business legitimately. It's absolutely fine. And other Bitcoiners just went for the jugular, and others a bit more measured. It's like it's a proper, like it's almost like Bitcoin where it is decentralized. Where none of us are on the payroll. We're all just independent, following what we think the vision for Bitcoin should be. That's what we relay onto other people. And that's all that happens. We just all relay our views online. And occasionally we spot something like this. And it's very clearly that this person was not right. And I think it is, whenever I think about this stuff, like it does get close to cancel culture. And like,
I was going to say,
are we
yeah,
canceling someone just because they said something we find offensive and all that?
yeah.
I feel cancel culture is something which has crept into mainstream society through social media, where it's changing views, like you're a dinosaur, your view isn't right, whereas Bitcoin is kind of what you're getting at, it's pure. And that's how I see it is, this is the vision, is a vision of pure money or value, which a government can't fuck with like they have
Yeah.
we've done in the past. And so I get that.
Yeah. So I think this is exactly what cancel culture, in my view, should be. Like I think people should be cancelled, like if they do step out of line and aren't following the ethos of what they should be doing. Whereas the problem is cancel culture at the moment is we're cancelling you for accidentally saying something sexist or racist 15 years ago, which is clearly nonsense. And no matter how many times you apologize, it doesn't matter. You're still cancelled. You get banned from everything. You lose your job. We want to see you in prison, ideally. But I think this marathon mining is a perfect example, right? So they stepped out and we essentially tried to cancel them and go, this is wrong. You are signaling something wrong. We do not agree with your views. We want you out of Bitcoin. They came back and apologized and went, you know what? We did outstep this. We'll amend our ways and fit into the ethos of Bitcoin. Immediately, Bitcoin Twitter went, right, we're wary of you now. Like you've been a slight threat to Bitcoin, but now you're fully accepted back. No punishment, no problem. It's absolutely fine. And I think that's what cancel culture should be. Like you step out of line, people call you for it. If you then go, look, I'm sorry, I didn't really know what I was doing. Oh, okay, fine. You get another life. Whereas
It's a grown up conversation, isn't
yeah,
it?
Yes,
it's how
exactly.
adults should act. Exactly. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. So well, personally, I back that massively. I get where the Bitcoin is coming from, and I think the whole conversation, like, yeah, you're back in the fold, is testament to Bitcoiners as well. It shows they're not just well, they are plebs, but they're not.
I think it goes to the point where we should also be asking people to prove, guess what, trust and verify exactly what we keep on preaching about. Let them say what they want to say, but then equally let them actually prove the fact of what they're saying. And if what they're saying is right, hold our hands up and be absolutely wrong. But that way we learn what is actually going on. And that way we can kind of say, okay, didn't know that. That's a great point. If not, go back.
Yeah, it's like when I launched my app into the Bitcoin space, I was terrified because I knew I was launching this into Bitcoin Twitter, and it was an educational product. I was claiming to be essentially like a bit of an authority on this space.
Yeah.
And true enough, when I first launched it, first couple of weeks, loads of like quite aggressive feedback about certain just wording of certain things. Like, oh, you talk about altcoins here. Why is it not shit coins? I'm like, I wanted to say that, but like Apple would ban me, and like because they don't like swear words in apps, and I would suddenly then kids couldn't download my app. It would have to be 18 plus. I don't want to make my app 18 plus just so I can say the word shitcoin. And like, so I had to explain myself, and I was right up there. I was a bit like where Marathon are now. I put myself above the power pit, and trying to do a good thing for Bitcoin. And yeah, I got shot at quite a few times for not being aggressive enough in certain areas, for being actually, I exposed some of what Satoshi is and what he does and what Bitcoin he may own. So I went back and went, you know what, fair play, guys. Okay, I've kind of maybe doxed Satoshi a little bit and given too much of his personal information out that it's technically public, but I don't want to be part of propagating it. So I will remove it. So I removed some information there. I went a bit harsher in other areas, and then they were fine. You gotta, and it's all good. It's like that everything they were saying was right, and some of it's too extreme. They want it just to be completely like, no, you need to say shitcoin, you need to say scam. Like, I don't want to go that far.
I think the approach is a bit too hard. I think it's a completely different topic, but I think as someone who's relatively new to the area, I kind of think the shitcoin, and I've seen some posts off various people where it's full on, and you kind of think maybe it's a little bit too intimidating to help ease in new investors or people investigating the general area.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, because we've all admitted there's so much around Bitcoin and the understanding of Bitcoin that it's hard for people to get their head around it. And if they don't believe it, and not a lot of people are willing to educate themselves, if you put that barrier up to begin with, they'll just turn off, and therefore they'll get in, get wrecked, and then talk about Bitcoin just being a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I do agree. The thing is, you have to remember is that a lot of these people have been here for 12 years. We've just had enough. This is their like third cycle of shitcoining, and they're all out of patience. So that's why the whole have fun staying poor meme came about, because we used to try and address these things with accurate conversations. And when someone doesn't want to listen and they just want to pump their money into a scam, they don't listen to reason. So sometimes just memeing and being aggressive and have fun staying poor, it is easier. So it can come across as aggressive, and the whole toxic Bitcoin maximalist
comes across as aggressive.
Yeah, well, it is aggressive then. Yeah, fine. Yeah, it's but the thing is, it's people just can't be bothered anymore. And sometimes it's like, if you're not going to listen, then fine, don't listen. Just have fun staying poor, and we walk away. And it's one of those things, like, we haven't got infinite time to talk. It's literally like how the whole fake news stuff to like dismiss FUD it takes 100 times more effort to dismiss FUD than it is to spread it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Like, you can so easily say, just put out a tweet from your account that has 5 million followers, Bitcoin's boiling the oceans. For us to disprove that, we have to put in a lot of work, like 15 tweets, freaking cited with sources. It's so hard to like dismiss that little tweet. It might have been a throwaway comment. It might have been a joke. So instead, we just lambast that thread with "have fun staying poor" and go on our way. We haven't got time for it every day.
Yeah, one of my favorite accounts is Saifuddin Amos, mainly because I love him. But the second is the insults which he puts out. So I think it was, I think it's someone about XRP or something trying to shill him. And he said something on the lines, the biggest mistake for you was learning to read, is you've wasted that gift. Something along those lines, and it did. I was like, that is possibly one of the best insults which I've seen, but I think it's a bit smoother than what I remember.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because like at this point, when I don't know how long XRP has been around, but it's probably 7 or 8 years. If you're buying that shitcoin now, then there's no hope for you. Like, you have not Googled it even once. Like, so what is the point in explaining to someone that's a scam? So yeah, just insult the fact that they're wasting their ability to read. Like, why not? Like, it's funny.
Wasn't Saifuddin doing a debate with somebody that we saw?
Yes, he's doing with the guy he's quite well backed in his opinions. I'm trying to remember his name now.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson.
Yes, I sent a video to our group where he was talking about sexism. Some feminist was trying to take him down, and he destroyed her in about 1 minute. She just sat there, mouth open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
well,
again, going back to the whole kind of putting people down and that smooth, slick talking, I think that will be
Yeah,
really interesting.
it'll be interesting him trying to rip Seyfried apart.
Yeah.
yeah, well, I think Jordan Peterson is genuinely curious. He's got a big following. He's a very intelligent guy,
He's curious.
and yeah, I've been a big fan of Jordan Peterson. Yeah, ever since that gender stuff. I think what it was, he got famous from a student who think was non-gender specific or something, and I think he called her she, which she clearly was a girl, but she was like, "Oh, I'm non-binary. You can't refer to me as that." And he basically just went, "I can refer to you as what I want," and just he got famous from that, and then he's got a massive platform now. But yeah, he's very skeptical of the whole woke kind of left side. He's skeptical of government, but he's not a Bitcoiner yet. So it'll be interesting to see if
when is that?
I'm trying to find it now online. I can't.
it must be soon.
Yeah. I can't see anything on Google.
Hopefully, it hasn't got cancelled. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be at the end of May. I think so.
Yeah, I
I
thought so
haven't
as
seen it.
well.
Might mean it might have fallen through, which hopefully it
Yeah.
didn't. That would have been a great conversation with those two because they're both intellectual heavyweights. So I love
Exactly.
listening to intellectual, especially an intellectual heavyweight that hasn't got Bitcoin yet. Let's just hear that conversation between Seyfried and someone that is, PhD level talking about Bitcoin and just seeing how they get along with it, see what their questions are, see how he takes it, to see what happens.
Yeah, I can't see anything. Maybe we'll come back to that on next week's podcast as well, because that'd be really good. Is everybody a subscriber of the Bitcoin Standard podcast as well?
Yeah, I'm listening to
some
enough
good
of it.
ones. Yeah.
I hate his intro. I'll say that. His intro is so fucking annoying. It's like pre-recorded. Like I always try and skip that first 2 minutes. It's awful. He needs to get rid of that. Like the conversation's great, but that intro is awful.
Yeah. Well, there's 60 of them, so yeah, it's definitely worthwhile for anyone else out there learning about the space. I always point to the Bitcoin Standard as the book to go to, and educating themselves about money. Us plebs in regular jobs have just received our 2% inflation pay rise. Ross, you get yours in the mail? And
I was going to say, I don't think I did. I think I'm not worthy of that.
Oh no, you're not even inflation worthy. The fake inflation as well. Like this is.
I actually.
I was going to say, admittedly, I did move job.
Yeah,
okay, that'll be why then.
I
That'll be why.
For a work colleague. So yeah, you're right. I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, but yeah, we do get the 2%, whereas this year would be like, well, it's more with trickle down. It's probably more like 14%, 15%. Can I have that? No.
Yeah.
We're going to pretend it's 2%.
It's another big reason, isn't it? It's another big reason to keep inflation low, like at least the public one, because again, who runs who pays for the government and who makes sure certain people get in power by lobbying and donations? It's the billionaires, the big businessmen, and they don't want inflation to come out at 15-20% because that means most employees expect, even if they haven't done a better job, just to keep stable, is inflation rise with wages. You have 20% inflation to get published, everyone suddenly wants a 20% pay rise, and it's like, nah, let's just say it's 2, and I'll keep the 18 on the side for myself. I like people paying 20% more for the goods and me paying 2% more for my staff. That's the kind of equation I like.
100%.
It's so depressing because it's true.
Yeah, and it's also true as well because people typically only have one source of income, and so if you've only got that and you're reliant and dependent on it, and you're not prepared to think outside of the box, or put a little bit of money aside for a store of wealth or a digital currency. We won't get into that debate as to what we want to call it, but there's lots of other things that they could be doing with their money, and I think I mentioned it on last week's podcast, probably not doing with their money as well.
Well, I think a good recommendation for a book is what you recommended, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah,
because that talks about the second income, so it's one which I think is worth recommending. So I think we do between us probably covered quite a lot of books, but I seem to be a couple of books behind Darnell at the moment, picking up what he's been reading, what he's been recommending. And that's one which I think I've got about 50 pages left of. And it has been a really good read. It has made me think a lot.
Yeah.
But at the moment, my money is in Bitcoin.
Well, he's a Bitcoiner now, and he's been somebody that's been converted as well from not being and totally against it.
He's got a lot of books as well, so it'd be interesting if he does put a book out around Bitcoin, see what his view is.
I think he'd partner with somebody if he did, because he's quite open to saying that he's not technology savvy and he's never been into stocks either. So, but Bitcoin, he's all good with. Bitcoin, silver, and gold.
He's one of those. He's like a more like fragrant, like Max Kaiser, but they were both they both realized the frailties of the society and the economy, and were both massive gold bugs. But then when Bitcoin came along, had the adaptability to go, oh, maybe gold is not the answer now. Switch to Bitcoin. So Max flipped fully. Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy hasn't switched fully, still owns gold, but he has now quite a large percentage of Bitcoin. So I always respect people that kind of spotted the problem, came up with the answer, and then actually amended their answer when new information came in. Because when they made their gold buys, this is in the 90s or early 2000s. Like Bitcoin was 20 years away from being invented. So they nailed it. They were absolutely right that the fiat system is...
He's also heavily property. I think that's probably his number one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think his number one is business. Like he runs a very good business, and it's like just you control your income. But then once you've got your income coming in, it's like where do you store your value once the money's coming in? And he has a good diversified portfolio where it comes to property and gold, and now also Bitcoin. But
funnily enough, as well, it's got an interesting book with Donald Trump about why we want you to be rich, and without reading it, I would probably have a very intelligent guess it's because of the way that fiat money is created and used, and how to potentially leverage against that, utilizing debt and strategies such as your own business and investing into yourself, well, as always.
Yeah, that does scream slightly of I'll show you how to be rich, and in reality, the only person to get rich at the end of that book is the person who wrote the book.
It was why we want you to be rich, not how to get rich. To be fair, and it. I don't know. Once upon a time, Trump wasn't. I'm probably gonna. This will be a meme. He wasn't that bad of a guy, but obviously his views certainly changed a lot as well.
Yeah, well, controversially, I don't mind Trump at all. I think he's just a very cutthroat businessman. Like I watched the whole documentary on him, and he screwed people over along the way. But like he's just a cutthroat businessman. Like he did deals. Sometimes if he ever did a gentleman's deal with you, he would always screw you. And then the second he doesn't want to get screwed, he'll make sure there's a contract. And it's a little bit dirty, but he just did what he did to get to the top. And the reasons why he tries, like a lot of the bullshit that gets said against him, like, go on, give me some evidence that he's sexist, he's racist, he's all these things. Like, go on, like actually legitimate stuff, like not just God comment, because of course he spouts a lot of shit and just speaks whatever he's speaking.
Yeah, the guy's about 80 as well.
Yeah, he comes from a different era. Like
you got to think that the amount. Well, just look at Joe Biden, what he said.
Yeah, well, he's not. He's got freaking dementia. But like, put any of our grandparents up on.
Well, he sniffs little girls' hair.
I know, and that was actually one of the things that goes back to topic number one. Like all those videos of him sniffing hair, they all got deleted from YouTube once he ran for president. They got deleted. Like, if you search for creepy Joe Biden, like sniffing hair, barely anything comes up now. It all got removed. It got scrubbed.
There you go.
Dodgy motherfuckers. But you go into Mark's topic. Mark sent something into the group today.
Yeah. Even though Mark, who sent it in and then doesn't turn up for it.
He's too busy being under the thumb, isn't he?
Oh, there we go. First insult. It's taken a long time to get there.
I've always forgotten he exists now.
He does. In fairness, I'm sure he'll be listening. So fuck you, Mark.
With your Starbucks.
Yeah. We can all unite by the fact that like we all agree with "fuck you, Mark." We all agree with that.
Reading this one, so this is about what company did he work for? And he was some kind of he was
Uphold. What a name.
What was he? Director of compliance was his position?
Right. Yeah,
he was the chief compliance officer, the freaking top guy. CCO.
And he's been accused of stealing, what was it, $500,000 sterling, so around about $700,000 is what he's being accused of.
35 Bitcoin, yeah.
But then it's a bit odd, like the article which I read, it's saying, he's saying breach of contract, so it's one against the other, but his previous company said there were claims around his company credit card, like he paid for a stripper or something on it. There's no detail there.
We've all done that.
Never had a company credit card, so
it's put it for own expenses.
Yeah, I was going to say expenses. And it just seems scraping about, former company said this about the credit card. It's like, what about the credit card? Has he bought beer with his meal when he's only allowed soft drinks? What exactly is it? And then the final one was a private investigator claims he has falsified documents. Who? Is this a private investigator who's been paid for this or what? So I don't know what way to look at this one. I don't know if it's a pile of rubbish or just about, he's gone breach of contract and they've gone, fuck you, you're not getting any money, and it's been a bit of a fight, or is it actually genuinely been him stealing?
What do you think, Darnell?
I think a company like that would have had controls in place regardless of him and his position as a chief compliance officer to allow them to see beforehand if anything has gone on, especially to that value. You'd like to think so anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's the thing. I have no clue whether it's true or not. It seems to be he said, she said at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see in the court case. But the fact that he's run off to Dubai and this company is chasing him for it looks bad. Like there's not many companies when you sue them for unfair dismissal or whatever it might be. They don't normally countersuit with something this serious, like to say you've stolen $2 million worth of Bitcoin from us and we have evidence. Because it sounds like for them to know that what it seems to be in the story is that he has faked emails to make it look like customers asked to withdraw funds to certain Bitcoin addresses, and those Bitcoin addresses have been proven to be his. So for them to be saying that sounds like customers have complained to go, what the hell, my account's been emptied, what's happened there? And they've looked into it and gone, holy shit, yeah, your account has been emptied and there's no support request for this. Oh, but there was a support request. Oh, it looks like our chief security officer forged them. So I don't know. It could be lies, but I think the only takeaway that I take away from this really is Uphold is a custodian of Bitcoin. And if you trust a custodian, then you are risking your Bitcoin being stolen either from the outside and then getting hacked, or internal people turning bad and just taking your Bitcoin from the inside. And it looks like in this case, it's only $2 million, which for Uphold is a relatively small amount of money. They've just put the Bitcoin back for everyone that lost the Bitcoin. So they're just going to have to take the hit on it unless they can get it back from this guy that's fled to Dubai.
Sorry, you're saying 2 million. I thought it's $500,000.
Well, it said $2 million in the article I read. It probably depends on the price of Bitcoin at the time, but it's 35 Bitcoin. Let's say 35 Bitcoin. That's definitely right. Okay. So whatever the 35 Bitcoin's worth today. And yeah, so just don't. It could have been anything though. This guy could have 35 Bitcoin he probably only stole that much because he thought he'd probably get away with it. It's a relatively low amount of money, like a sneaky 2 million out of $1 billion company. But they obviously have spotted it and they've come for him and he's fled. But it could have been that he could have gone for the lot. The position he was in, this is not a low-level employee who's just scammed out a few customers. This is the guy on the board, the head of security and compliance for the business. He had the key to the vault. He could have emptied that vault and everyone's Bitcoin in Uphold could have been gone. And then he would have fled to Dubai, and they'd have probably sent freaking a whole SWAT team after him. But it just shows, like, again, don't trust verify. Don't own your keys. No cheese. It's not your Bitcoin. Like, keep your private keys with you. Do not trust custodians, because if they're literally the top guy inside Uphold for security of people's Bitcoin was the thief. So there's the perfect example. Like, people are not to be trusted. Only trust yourself. Take control of your own keys. Otherwise, we've had 2 scare stories now. We had BlockFi last week. That was an internal mistake. Now we've got Uphold this week. This was an internal hack from the looks of it, like people stealing from the inside. Don't be responsible for the 3rd or 4th one, and where that is much worse and you lose all your Bitcoin. Take custody of it. Buy a hard wallet. Get your own keys. Be safe.
I think every week we should try and find a scare story. That should be a feature.
Every week I'm going to be testing my 24 words.
You should. You should. After the, I think it was podcast number 4, I was definitely testing my words. I'm glad they were.
I just feel like I want to go and test it now.
Yeah.
It's good. That's a good, healthy feeling, because at the end of the day, you are responsible. You're responsible for your future and for your future family's wealth. And you should just test it every couple of weeks. Like, it should be, that's normal.
One of the things I've been listening to over the last week, because I'll be honest, I actually don't read a lot or try to get too involved with Bitcoin outside of the podcast, because I'm kind of like in a place where I don't care about the FUD that's out there. I'm looking at bigger, longer time cycles. And so one of the, so I'm listening to The Psychology of Money. Again, one I'd probably recommend. And one of the chapters is You and Me, it's called. And it talks about horizons. And we spoke about it when we talked about moons and when our Bitcoin moon may appear. But for some of us, the horizons, and I'd say like the retail customers that are coming into the space right now, all they're looking for is, oh, when will my money double? Whereas all of us, we're like, no, we're going to go 5, 10, even beyond years in terms of Bitcoin. And so therefore I actually don't get involved with the day-to-day ramblings and the rumblings that go on. I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that as well. How do you kind of protect yourself from the whole FUD?
No, man, I'm in the fucking trenches. So I dedicated my life to Bitcoin 3 years ago. I'm all in. So
you've got nothing else to do.
There's also that.
There's an element of you
but
have nothing else.
I see I almost actually that's a good idea. I might actually update my job title to like the Bitcoin Immune System Officer or something. Yeah. I know, just that, and it is just Like that. So I'm on the front lines. I love everything Bitcoin. I've been in it for like 5-6 years, so I just absorb everything. So I for the FUD, I'm never going to get shaken out. Like, this isn't like, unless unless the fundamentals of Bitcoin that make it sound money get compromised, then it's just entertainment, and I'm there on the front lines. I'm interested in it. But and it's my number one subject. What's that?
You're creating the beefs online.
Oh yeah. I'm freaking arguing with parents.
Well, there's only so many times you can swipe right. You need something else to do, don't you?
Did it.
Yeah. How about you, Ross? Do you do much?
I read a little bit. So I use Twitter. Yeah. Not massively, but it's the only social media outside of LinkedIn that I use.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of get some articles within our group chat. So every so often I'll read about it, and I also keep myself up to date with general news. But I suppose
I can't tell you the last time I looked at the price.
I'm looking at it right now. I thought I'd have a quick look, but my kind of thoughts are, I think a week and a half, my wife was just like, don't need to lose all your money. And I was just like, it's okay, I lost most of it on a boat accident. But it's a general belief, there's a reason why I invested in Bitcoin. and it's just reminding myself of that. I have belief in the asset which I've invested in. It's not the fact that I've gone for quick wins. Otherwise, I would have gone for Doggy Coin or Polkadot or whatever the fuck else has come out and meant to be the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. So this is long term. I said when I put money in, it'd be 5 years. I'm not just going to take it out when it doubled, trebled, or whatever it was to I don't know, pay off part of my mortgage or buy myself a fast car. It was, let's put it in because it's something which I believe in for 5 years, along with a number of my investments.
Yeah,
it's it, but I do think it's slightly like the evolution of a pleb or this as well, because in the early days, like I was scared really to even say I was a Bitcoiner online because I thought I might not be saying the right things. Bitcoin wouldn't accept me, and it's quite a big. It's quite a big.
As we saw with your app,
there's plenty of people that don't, and but it's a big thing. Like I see a lot of people; they're just lurkers. Like I used to be a lurker in Bitcoin Twitter for years. I was a lurker on Reddit for years because it's a big thing to start commenting, to start putting your own views out there, and like I think you start off as a reply guy, so you just reply to other people's stuff, and then eventually you advance to I've got something that I think is unique about. I've got a take that I think is interesting, and you start putting it out there. And it's really demoralizing when you first start doing that because you don't have a following. No one, you've never said anything interesting before. So
I like your tweets, guys.
I know.
You get one like.
Yeah.
I know in the recent, like the last year, like I get 2 likes on every tweet. It's you and Mark. Like, oh, there they are. There's my like guys. Like, it's like a little girl on Instagram taking selfies, and their 2 best mates be like, click, like.
It's like your goal.
Yeah, your staple 2 likes.
Yeah, but eventually, like you build up. I've got a bit of a following now, so occasionally, like, I get the odd tweet goes viral, get hundreds or thousands of likes, and it starts off a conversation, and then it just builds your confidence that what I'm saying is a little bit unique on today's takes, but it takes time, and a lot of people do start to talk, and then they get lambasted and go, "You're stupid," like especially in Bitcoin Twitter. They don't take any prisoners in there, so you either get ignored or you'll get told you're stupid. So I think there's a lot of fear around that. So I
personally love the LinkedIn posts myself. I know they take a lot more time, perhaps, but I have enjoyed those because I can refer people to them as well.
Yeah, but even LinkedIn, that's the thing. Like on Bitcoin, it's probably even more scary. But I'm connected to I think like well over a couple of thousand people on LinkedIn. Hardly any of them post anything. Like,
everyone's too scared. Cancel culture once again.
Yeah,
and have you seen the flip side of it? They have news articles on the top right, and if you find a good topic, there's some classic replies in there by people who should not be replying and should not be replying in that way, and you just go, I wonder if they've got sacked today.
Yeah.
It's all from people like me that don't give a shit and can't be cancelled.
I know these are people, with a job listed like IT technician or whatever, and you just go, I
think that is what people are scared about. They're scared about being fired. But if you're writing an article like about the job you do or about how you would approach your job, so many people are terrified of putting their views out there because they either think it's boring and uninteresting or someone's going to get offended. And just being judged, like it's so scary to put yourself out there, put your head above the parapet and be judged. And I think the second you do it and you realize nothing happens, it enables you to do it multiple other times. So I think I would encourage everyone, like no matter where you are in your career, what your topic is, just write something, like whether it be a tweet or an article, just start putting it out there. Like it's fine. Like I think the fear is way worse than the real consequences. And you might have something interesting to say.
Become bios.
Bio Bitcoin immune officer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so the last 2 topics to round it off, because I know Ross needs to get to bed. He's getting tired, and he can see his eyes like drooping. And
said I couldn't even remember simple words earlier in the podcast, so it's a bit obvious.
You need to drink more whiskey. That you learn more words when you drink whiskey.
True, mainly swear words.
So good, no filter.
But yeah, so we had the Indy 500 this weekend. We had a Bitcoin car, number 21, was racing. We were leading the race for like 32 of the laps. I have no idea how many laps there were, but I think it's not much more than 32. And but he ended up coming 8th, unfortunately. Apparently, he had a bit of a dodgy pit stop that cost him some time. He came out from first and came out 8th in a, but yeah, an eighth place finish isn't too
200
bad.
laps, by the way.
I was 200.
How many cars are there?
Don't know how many cars. I caught a bit of it.
It's a race, or is there more?
There's loads.
There's loads. Yeah,
there's loads.
I have no idea because IndyCar is an American thing, so I think the rest of the world watches F1.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. They just go around in circles, don't they?
Yeah, there is a strategy to it in terms of like.
I thought IndyCar was like F1.
Actually,
again, very similar, but not. They go.
Whereas NASCAR is a big circuit where we just go round and round and round.
That's yeah. That's really bizarre when you literally drive around in a circle for like 200 laps. That's like, how was that a race? But yeah.
I think it's the crashes because everyone's bumping into each other.
Yeah.
They definitely, there is some strategy to it because you have to refuel. You've got tires. Also strategy in terms of obviously where you're coming out, in terms of obviously also where you pit, and then racing against everybody at 235 miles per hour going around in a circle.
Yeah, but it's good. It raised some awareness for Bitcoin. Unfortunately, we didn't get on. We started in third, I think. That was where he qualified. He qualified third, came 8th. But raised some awareness for Bitcoin, and also a portion of the funding for the car goes to Bitcoin developers again. So just like the Bitcoin pizza stuff last week, more money going to developers, all great. And then this week it is Bitcoin 2021 in Miami, and I should be there. I'm absolutely gutted that I'm not there, but it's going to be great. It's the biggest Bitcoin conference of all time. I think it probably would have been anyway, but the fact we haven't had a conference for 14, 15 months.
Can you not get out there?
No, like I don't know. I might be able to, but they want tests and all. Yeah, it's just I just couldn't be bothered. I didn't want to book anything and then just have them change the rules last minute. So I just went, I'm not going. Just I didn't want to be disappointed.
In a way, unrelated to Bitcoin, but general holidays, I said to the wife, like, I don't want to go on holiday with the whole tests and masks on the plane and everything. So it's just last minute, you can't go because, your kid's got a potential false positive.
Yeah. Or they put it on the red zone and then you have to quarantine for 10 days. It's just what
I just went, it's not going to make it an enjoyable, relaxing holiday. So I'm not going abroad till it stops.
No. And the problem is, like, a trip to America, like it's £1,000 probably flights. You got to pay. This is Miami. Do you want to stay somewhere nice? It's a whole week thing. You're going to be going out like you've got to book all this in advance, like months in advance. And I just didn't trust that when it comes. I just know I lost a load of money in Sweden. I lost a load of money last year. I booked like some conferences ahead. I'd booked flights and some accommodation. I lost loads of money on that. I just don't trust it. So it looks like it's going to be
2021. I'm actually going to be a bit more responsible with my money.
Well, instead, you got to learn and grow at home and watch Joe Wicks. I think Mr. Motivator had a comeback as well.
I think he did. Yeah.
Is he? He's got to be like 80 years old now, isn't he?
I saw him.
60 or 70, I think. But he's still a beast.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
To be fair as well, Miami, I've been fortunate enough to visit. It's the most expensive place that I have visited.
Really?
Yeah, really, really expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem is it's one of the few places in America that is a party central and open. Yeah. So double the prices. Whatever you probably thought, it's double. And then the entirety of Bitcoin's arriving. So they're all minted. So they're all going to be pushing the price up even further.
Yeah.
So I roughly priced it up and just went, I can't spend that money like on a punt and potentially not even go because Boris tells me there's the freaking Pakistani variant now. And like or even worse, like Biden says something and closes the borders their side because they're both us and them are both being stupid. So I just went.
You'd have to stop sniffing hair first. Yeah, it's all same with holidays. So now you can get insurance, but it's a whole stress. You know, when you go somewhere, you want to have a good time, not worry about anything. And I just think we've lost what a holiday is because of this whole shit show.
Yeah.
So what is it? Is it £90 or £180 for a test before and come back? You know, if you've got a family like myself, it's times it by 4. You know, it makes a holiday horrendously expensive.
Yeah, it's a classic. We're not telling you that you can't go on holiday, but you'll have to pay this little tax to go on holiday.
Yeah. And you're rolling the dice, aren't you? Because like any of those tests could come back as a false positive, and now you can't go.
Yeah.
Now what? That was another thing I was worried about. I'm like, cause I had a flu the other day. Like I went away with the family, came back, and I caught the flu off one of the babies. And yeah, I'm like, well, those antibodies are on my body now. Who knows how close that is to COVID or not?
You should have been socially distancing.
No. Weirdly, I did actually take one of my little COVID tests anyway. But they're apparently they're not legit though, are they?
The lateral flow, they've got massive amounts of false negatives and false positives. So literally, they're pointless. You know, like PCR, there is a false positive and false negative rates, but it's a lot lower. Whereas lateral flow it's like rolling a dice. You know, I don't even understand why they're out there. So they say if you get a lateral flow positive, you should have a PCR test to have further confirmation.
But weirdly,
PCR tests take a lot longer.
Yeah, because the majority of the cases will come from the first type of test, don't they? That's all people are doing.
Yeah, the PCR, the current one, I think they're using more lateral flow now. So the rise in the numbers could be the lateral flow, false positive, but you just don't know.
Yeah, but anyway,
how long for the day when there's none?
But yeah, I think get tuned in because they're live streaming the main stage all week, and they could be cutting it up into YouTube videos and all that. Cool.
Send the link.
Yeah, I will. I'll send it into the group. Yeah, but everyone in Bitcoin is there. You got Kaiser, you got Sailor, Saifedean, Adam Back, Peter Todd. You can learn about Lightning, about the regulation, about energy. It's pretty much like all the topics we've discussed on this podcast probably to date. The proper like OGs in Bitcoin are going to discuss this over the next 2 or 3 days. It's going to be epic. Undoubtedly, the after parties and all that kind of stuff are going to be crazy. But we still get to absorb the content. You know, and sometimes the conferences that I've gone to, because they're so crazy and you're hungover for half the days anyway, you barely absorb much of the content while you're there. You meet a couple of them afterwards and go, it's great, but like you're not really paying attention, and you actually catch up on the conference content when you get back and watch it all back. You just go there for the socializing and just meeting people and like making connections. But yeah, we get to watch it, and it should be out of all the content we're going to see this year, I think the next couple of days it's going to be gold nugget after gold nugget. So we need to tune in and like
4th and 5th of June. I am there. I'm just looking online now and going to bookmark the live stream. Yeah, I'm all over it.
Yeah, it'll be American time, so I think it'll probably start about 5 p.m. our time and go on to around midnight. So yeah, it'll just be gold. And even if you can't tune in to like those exact times, they'll chop it up and put it all on YouTube. So it'll be forever.
That's what I need to find some choice topics which I'm interested in. Like I'd like to know more about the Lightning Network, probably Taproot as well.
Yeah, well, literally like the people that coded Lightning and coded the majority of the Taproot code are speaking. So like if you want like the source information, then they're the guys. Like people like me and like nearly everyone else we're passing this information on third hand and probably getting little bits wrong. These are the guys that freaking wrote the stuff. So yeah, these videos are going to be pure gold. This is literally getting the information from the source. It's there. These things are super rare because a lot of these guys as well, they don't go on podcasts. They don't go on Twitter. So they get these conferences, drag them in and get them to go and do a bit of a talk and have an interview. And so when they do, it's the content they give is just gold.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to this. I'm just looking on the website right now, and it looks amazing actually.
Yeah, it's anyone and everyone in Bitcoin is speaking. It's almost like there's like 100 people speaking over 2 or 3 days. It's insane.
Yeah, it looks great.
They even got I think they got the governor of Miami opening it up because he's now a Bitcoiner as well.
He's in.
All right, boys, time to go to bed, is it? Well, Ross is anyway.
Yeah,
Ross is dead, isn't he? He's dead.
I am.
His eyes are shut and he's glazing over.
Yeah, but
no different to normal, really. But...
No, I was going to say no different.
Yeah, he just bored me to sleep.
We bored you, Jesus. Hot kettle black.
Yeah. Fellow plebs, if you want to hear us, then tune in.